If you go out there in this world, out there in them streets, and get caught up with all this stuff going on, you are going to perish. I want to share a quick word with y'all today. Just a reminder, it's a lot of stuff taking place in the world today, obviously. It's a very turbulent time right now. But in reality, none of these things taking place has anything to do with the body, anything to do with followers of Yeshua and servants of the Most High. All right. A lot of these things are just distractions, although they are events that will lead to the ultimate event that eventually it will involve us. But what I'm saying is right now, none of these events taking place are things that we need to focus on. All we need to focus on is knowing who the Father is in his word. All right. We need to be able to make sure that we're walking with him and staying in his will. All right. At the end of the day, what the Father desires from us is to be holy. He desires for us to be Kodesh. You know, there's no reason for us to be confused, no reason for us to wonder what he wants us to do. What he wants you to do is to love your neighbor. He wants you to love him with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. All right. He says that he is holy, so he desires that we be holy. All right. These are simple things that he desires from all of us. And then on top of that, there's many other things, depending on who you are and what he desires from you, that he may require of you. All right. But like I said, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. And right now, I just want to remind y'all that none of these things have anything to do with us. And Yeshua told us that we need to walk down the narrow path. If you look at Christianity and all the events taking place within Christianity right now, Christianity within itself is not a narrow path. All right, it's the largest religion in the world, and there's a reason for that. It's a very, very, very broad path. You can't expect to know who the Father is just because you're a Christian. All right, you can't just expect to know him. You have to have a personal relationship with him. All right, I'm going to reinforce these words with some scriptures. All right, so right here in Matthew chapter 7, verses 13, Yeshua is talking to the disciples, and he tells them, "Enter in through the narrow gate, because the gate is wide that leads to destruction, and there are many who enter in through it." All right. Enter in through the narrow gate, because the gate is wide that leads to destruction. All right. That way is broad. All right. That leads to destruction, and there are many who enter in through it. All right. So the gate to destruction, everyone's going to be going down that path. All right. So look at the world and ask yourself, what is everyone doing? What path is everyone taking? Whatever path that is, it's going to lead to destruction. All right, because the path is broad that leads to destruction. But he warns us to enter in through the narrow gate, because the way is hard pressed, which leads to life, and there are few who find it. All right, there are only a few who are going to find the path to life. All right, so these are his followers, people that you probably will never see on YouTube, people you'll probably never see on TV. This is his small assembly, an obedient group of people that he has preserved, that are not following the world. You'll probably never see them in life. You'll probably never hear about them. It's this small group of people, the small group of obedient people that is taking this narrow path. All right. So the broad path is the path that leads to destruction. What this reminds me of is all the Christian conservatives who claim to love Jesus, but they also claim to be a Republican. It just doesn't make sense. All right. This is Christian nationalism, which will lead us down a different path, but we're not going to talk about that right now. But the thing about this is when you're serving Yahuwah the Most High, you cannot represent two things. You cannot expect to live your whole life as a Christian conservative or a Christian liberal and represent for political things on this earth, and then expect to stand before the Father and him to know who you are. You can't expect that. You represented politics on this earth and fought for things in society which have nothing to do with building his kingdom up. These things have nothing to do with building his kingdom up. And then he's going to tell you he never knew you. All right. One thing that Paul said, anyone that is engaged in warfare or that is enlisted in warfare does not involve himself with the affairs of this life. All right. So we have been commissioned as followers of Yeshua. All right. And we do not involve ourselves with affairs of this life. All right. We don't entangle ourselves with things of this life because we know that it is not our job. Everything that we do has everything to do with building the Father's kingdom. All right. Preparing for his kingdom, whether that's teaching people, whether that's loving people, whether that's giving, whether that's showing people who he is. Whatever gift he gave you, you're supposed to be using that to build his kingdom. What you're not supposed to be doing is going through politics, trying to make the world a better place. All right. This is how you are going to get rejected by him, because he doesn't need the government. He doesn't need, although in some ways he may use it, but for the most part, all these Christians getting involved in politics and all this radical conservatism and stuff like that, he's going to reject them. All right. He is going to reject you. All right. Now, with that being said, I'm going to jump over to John chapter 10. This is Yeshua talking about his sheep that know his voice. All right. John chapter 10, verse 1 says, "Truly I say to you, he who does not enter through the door into the sheepfold, but climbs up by another way, that one is a thief and a robber." The door he is referring to is the kingdom. All right. He who does not enter through the sheepfold, that man is a thief and a robber. He's referring to people that's trying to enter into the kingdom of heaven by other means, not only by going around the Son, Yeshua, but, doing whatever they want to in this world and still thinking that they're going to be able to inherit the kingdom of the Father. They cherry pick Bible verses. They make up their own will for their lives. They're not serving him. They're not living a life that's pleasing to him, but they think that they're still on their way to heaven. This is what he's talking about. But he who enters through the door is the shepherd of the sheep. The doorkeeper opens for him, and the sheep hear his voice, and he calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. And when he has brought out his own sheep, he goes before them, and the sheep follow him, because they know his voice. All right. We are the sheep. We know his voice. That's what he's referring to. And they shall by no means follow a stranger, but shall flee from them, because they do not know the voice of strangers. Yeshua used this figure of speech, but they did not know what he had been saying to them. Therefore, Yeshua said to them again, he's about to explain it to them. "Truly I say to you, I am the door of the sheep." Yeshua is the door of the sheep. All right. He's the doorkeeper. "All who came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them. I am the door. Whoever enters through me, he shall be saved, and shall go in and shall go out and find pasture. The thief does not come except to steal and to slaughter and to destroy. But I have come that they may possess life, and that they may possess it beyond measure. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. But the hireling, one who is hired, and not being a shepherd, one who does not own the sheep, sees the wolf coming and leaves the sheep and flees. And the wolf snatches the sheep and scatters them. Now the hireling flees because he is a hireling and is not concerned about the sheep. But I am the good shepherd, and I know mine, and mine know me. Even as the Father knows me, and I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. And other sheep I have which are not of this fold, the Gentiles, I have to bring them as well, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one flock and one shepherd." So Yeshua is explaining how he's the doorkeeper. We're going to go through him. We know his voice. All right. He explains that by no means they will follow a stranger, because they do not know the voice of a stranger. So if you have a personal relationship with the Father, then you should be able to know his voice. All right. You should be able to tell whether someone is speaking on his behalf or not. A lot of these Christians today that's involved in all these politics and involved in all these worldly affairs, they do not know the voice of Yeshua. They don't know his voice, because if they did, they would conduct themselves different. They would represent themselves different. They wouldn't consider themselves a conservative. They wouldn't consider themselves as a liberal. All I'm trying to say is you have to make sure that you have a relationship with him. You have to make sure that you know him, because although we have been taught in Christianity that all you have to do is believe in Jesus to inherit the kingdom, that's not actually true. You have to know who the Father is. You have to have a personal relationship with him. In Matthew chapter 7, verses 21, it says, "Not everyone who says to me, Adonai, Adonai, which means my master, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he who was doing the desire of my Father in heaven." All right. So not everyone who calls on him is going to enter into his kingdom. Only those who are doing his will. All right. So are you doing his will for your life? All right. His will for your life is not to be a conservative. All right. His will for your life is not to be a Republican or a liberal. It's not to be involved in politics. And the reason that I'm talking about this stuff, of course, is because the things that's going on right now. And, I don't have a Facebook, but, I hear about these things. I hear about all these Christians doing all these things. And I just think to myself, like, do they really think that this is pleasing to the Father? Do you really think that is pleasing to the Father for you to be on Facebook being racist in the comments and then trying to preach Jesus after that? Do you really think that he's going to be satisfied with you? Do you really think that he's going to accept you? Do you really think that God is going to be pleased with you because you were trying to make the world a better place through politics, through your vote? Do you think that he knows your name? Do you have a personal relationship with him? That's what it comes down to. Like he said, not everyone who says to him, Adonai, shall enter into his kingdom, but only those doing the will of his Father. All right? Only those doing the will of his Father. Many shall say to me in that day, in the day of judgment, Adonai, Adonai, which means my master. Have we not prophesied in your name, and cast out demons in your name, and done many mighty works in your name? And then shall I declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who work lawlessness. All right, so these are people casting out demons in the name of Jesus, doing many mighty works in the name of Jesus, calling on Jesus. These people remind me of the people that's in church shouting, praising, falling out in the name of Jesus. These people who are also lawless are going to get rejected by him. Not because I said so, not because of how I feel, but because of he said this. This is not my saying. All right. So at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, do I know him? My sheep hear my voice. When I call them, they come. But they do not know the voice of a stranger. Do you know the voice of God? It's very, very important. Actually, important, that's an understatement. There are no words to stress how severe it is for you to know the voice of God, for you to be able to recognize his hand in your life. All right. If you go out there in this world, out there in them streets, and get caught up with all this stuff going on, you are going to perish. All right. Because it is not his will for you to get involved in the affairs of this life and try to solve the world, make the world a better place through politics. The world is perishing and everything in it. All right. That's why he told us, do not love the world or the things in the world. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, the pride of life, all these things are going to perish. All these things are going to perish. But those who are doing the will of his Father who is in heaven, they will abide forever. All right. You got to make a decision, man.